What's going on, everyone? It is another episode of Rewriting My Story with Dr. Mondo, coming to you from a remote location here tonight, and that remote location actually is the church here at Bayside Midtown. I'm going to be getting ready to lead a study going on later here tonight at the church, so that's why we're out here tonight, and the banner wasn't cooperating, so instead you get this really cool wall that we painted. Nice spackled white, so that's what you'll have behind us tonight. But you're not here for the background, you're here instead for tonight's guest, and that guest is no other than Mr. Sami Kader of Sami Circuit. If any of you are already familiar with tonight's guest, then you know his backstory. He needs no introduction. He's one of the biggest inspirational figures in the Sacramento, Northern California area. In my opinion, I don't know anyone else that champions childhood obesity the way he does, and from such a unique angle by telling his story, and not just telling his story, but also going out to inspire kids. So he's just such a unique personality, and not just that, but he's someone that I grew up with. I've known Sami since I was in junior high, so it's pretty interesting to have a chance to be able to get to interview him tonight, and really not interview him, as you guys have probably gotten a chance to see by now. These are less interviews and more conversations, and tonight is going to be a really cool conversation between Sami and I. It's a chance for you guys to get a window in on some conversations we've had for years. If any of you have heard me speak before, you know that I've actually referenced, this is the guy if you've ever heard some of my talks where I reference, there's this personal trainer I know that's kept the weight off for so long. He's the one that's done it. He's the guy that I reference. And so tonight, to actually be able to talk to him, and I think I just saw him pop up on screen, so we'll see if as soon as he pops up. Let's see. So if you've heard my talks, again, it's his story that I reference so much. He's kept the weight off for years and years now. I don't want to say how many years because it's been a very long time, because then it would tell you how old we are. But Sami, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. How you doing?
Doing great. What's that jersey you got on back up there?
Oh, the best quarterback to ever play the game. No big deal.
Oh, is it? So who's the best quarterback to ever play the game? Yeah, I don't watch football. Make me familiar.
I think if you saw the last Super Bowl, you may be thinking differently, but really, just look at the history books. He's an inspiration, and I hear he's got a new show out, Tom versus Time. I think you should check it out.
I actually have checked it out. I think I do know who you're talking about. You're talking about Tom Brady? See, the numbers are superimposed there backwards, but okay, now I know. I thought it was like, what number is that? How good is that show, by the way? Have you been watching that?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I really like it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
But I mean, I'm a big Tom Brady fan, and so I could be biased, but yeah, I definitely like the show. You should check it out. I mean, it's cool because the episodes are like 14 minutes long.
I know, it's for people's attention span.
So
that's
it's quick,
Yeah, you could watch Tom versus Time tonight, the entire season, or you could watch this talk between Sami and I. So you take your pick. Don't leave now. Tom versus Time is going to be there. But yeah, man, it's so great to have a chance to talk with you. It sucks that there's such a limited amount of time. It makes me so wanting to dive in immediately and not waste any of it, because I could talk to you for hours, and I know we have throughout the years, but there's just so much of your story that I just can't wait for people to get to hear tonight and get exposed to. Can you give people a little bit of a background of what you're up to right now? Let's just start with where you're at today, and then we'll work our way back to how long we've known each other and stuff.
Well, gosh, where do I start? So my day-to-day is basically I'm in schools all over Northern California, about 70 schools this year that I'm going to, 4 visits per school, teaching kids about self-respect, eating healthy, exercise. And it's my program that I created along with some help from some great friends, some people that have believed in me along the way. And it's called Sami Circuit. So if your kid is 12 or under, they've probably heard of it, or the parents have heard of it. But yeah, Sami Circuit in over 70 schools in the Roseville, Sacramento, Rockland, Loomis, El Dorado Hills area. Yeah, Citrus Heights,
Does,
Carmichael.
does that blow you away, man, to just say that 70 schools? I mean, like you actually go to these schools. It's not just some number, right? Like these schools you visited.
Well, no, it's definitely a dream come true. It's tiring. I just got done 6 7 hours talking in a school and exercising with the kids, and so sitting here, I'm like, man, I got to get a nap when we're done with this interview. Get ready, do it again tomorrow. But man, it's a dream come true.
That's
I wouldn't
awesome.
trade it for anything. And they always say, be careful what you wish for, because when I first started, I had 3 schools. I was like, man, if I could have just 20 schools, that'd be great. Next thing you know, I've got 70 schools 5 years later, and it's just growing. I really it'd grow more if I had more time in the day, more hours in the day. But yeah, I'm at capacity. I've got a lot of schools that I'm committed to, and seeing the kids year after year. That's the best part, is that I get to see these kids over and over again and reinforce a message.
And do you see like what are some of the? I'm sure you've seen amazing stories. Have you actually been able to stay up with some of these kids as they've gone through the different grades?
Well, I mean, I guess when we think about it like that, I see about 30,000 kids a year. So I've
30,000.
always had,
Wow.
yeah, I always have kids reach out to me, and when I go back there, there's no way I could remember names, but I remember faces. I see them. I hear from the teachers. I hear from the principal. They always let me know when there's an impact and the kids are really needing it. A lot of kids are in a good place, but there's always those kids that the teachers know who they are, the principals, that they really need some extra attention. So I'm always doing that. I'm always hearing about great things, kids that are coming around, kids that have never wanted to exercise before, all of a sudden come to life when Sammy Circuit. They write me letters, you know, um, those thank you letters that kids send are the best thing. You can never throw them away. So I've got a closet full of them, and it's just one of those things where it's so cool to get those, but they're not going anywhere, so they're staying in my closet, and the pile just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And why kids? I think that's probably as a segue into your story. But I'm sure people listen
Good question.
and I mean, look, some background on Sammy that maybe you didn't know, but I know that Sammy actually has done some work with former contestants of The Biggest Loser, where he actually worked with some of those folks when they went home, and he did some training. Sammy was a really successful personal trainer out at 24 Hour Fitness. And so if he wanted to, I'm speaking for you now, but if you wanted to,
Yeah.
you could easily make that your passion. I saw you pivot though, 5 7 years ago, and you pivoted in this direction to work with kids. Why kids? And I know that segues into your story.
Well, so I was in the gym for like 13 years, and it was a passion of mine, helping people get fit. At that time, it was more about weight loss for me. I had a lot of experience in that area, and there were so many people struggling with weight loss, and it was something that I just knew it through and through. It was my thing. I had, you know, anything in that area, I was so passionate about it, and I gave everything to my clients. When we would train,
You did.
I would always be available, and I trained, 15 hours in the day. I would train from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, and I would train more if the gym would have let me. I mean, I just loved it. I loved writing meal plans. I loved helping people, but more than that, I loved talking about the emotional side of weight loss, and because it was something that I could understand, because that was my life for a long time. Um, but after about, I'd say like year 8 to 10, I started feeling a shift inside of myself, because it just wasn't me anymore for a lot of reasons. I had grown a lot personally,
Yeah,
but I started feeling like the only way that I was happy with myself is if I was giving to other people and helping other people. And it's like
mm,
when I could help other people with their issues, with their weight loss problems, and I was finding value in myself through that,
yeah,
then it was like I was able to forget about myself. I was able to kind of
totally.
take the attention off of me. And I also realized that I wasn't it wasn't really doing as much as I thought it should have. I was talking to these adults, and a lot of them were acting like they wanted help, and some were ready to make a change. But the ones that lost weight and made that change and kept the weight off, I always had this feeling like they would have done it with anybody.
Mm.
Like they
They
came
were
to me,
ready,
they
or
had
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Mentally, they were
Hmm.
ready. They had made that choice. They had made that decision. So by the time that I saw them, it was like they would have done this no matter what. Like, yeah, they chose me because they heard about me, my reputation. They wanted somebody. They called me the best. I had the best reputation in the gym for many years. Like you said, I had accolades and been on the Biggest Loser TV show, things like that. But I really felt like they would have done it anyway. But then the people that I had lost, helped lose like 100 pounds or 150 pounds, they gained the weight back eventually. And then our
Mm.
friendship would dwindle because they felt so ashamed to be seen by me, It was
Yeah.
like,
Ugh.
oh, like I only cared about them because, they lost weight and I liked who they were now. But what about the person when I first met them, that person that came to me and, trusted me with their most personal goal and dream. And it's like, I was never ashamed. I was never upset. I just felt like, was what I was doing, was it really making a difference? Like I just didn't, I always questioned that. And when I started feeling that way, that's when I really started feeling differently inside about what I was doing, because people would say, "Hey, when are you going to get a real job? You're a trainer at a gym." I was making good money. It wasn't about the money,
Yeah.
but that to me was my career at the time. Like I wasn't thinking like, "Oh, I'm just training." You can make anything out of anything. And I
Hmm.
wanted, to me, that job as a trainer was something I held very high, something I put everything into that. And when I started feeling that shift inside of me for those reasons, I just kind of, I knew that there was a way that I could have a bigger impact. And
Hmm.
I started searching for that way. I started searching for that way that was going to happen.
Mm. And
And
you
that's kind of,
and
yeah.
so brought you back a couple of things you said there. So that's what it was, this almost this crisis of sorts, of feeling like you were watching people change, and the ones that were going to change and lose the weight and be successful, they were just, and I feel that too, like in therapy, when people are ready to change, there's something bigger. That's part of the reason I believe in spiritual, realm, or that there's something bigger in play when someone's ready to change, right? But it sounds like for
Oh,
you, that must have been really hard, because here's the thing: people are looking at you, and yeah, Sami is one of the most in shape, dedicated guys I know, and you could see it by the way he looks on camera. Sami, you look good. You know it, man, right? You know that,
just
don't
don't
you?
ask me to take, don't ask me to take my shirt off. All right. As long
I
as
know, no, I'm right. Never ask. We all know why. Because if you grew up, yeah, like that stuff sticks with you, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Is that the
yeah.
thing is, when I think about you working with kids, man, and when I think about people avoiding you, I understand this idea, because I've had it, of I'm ashamed of like going back to a trainer where I lost the weight. But out of all people, you get it, and I mean this. I've worked with so many trainers, and I've worked with gym owners, and you were the first one that ever gave me hope, man, that actually I knew you get it. Because let's go in the Wayback Machine. Sami, I've known you since we were in junior high, man. And can you just
Yeah.
do this for a minute? Whatever. This is, like I told you, this isn't therapy, man, but like transport yourself back to Ike Junior High in Roseville, California, and
All
take
right.
me
Well,
for a moment through what that Sami Kader felt on any given day. What was life
does
like for that eighth grader, that seventh grader?
does Facebook have like a time machine like
We
graphic or something? No, no,
it
no.
would be
All
so
right.
great if you have a picture, show it, but we'll get it later, whatever. What was that
um,
like for you, man? Seventh, eighth grade.
um, so for me, seventh and eighth grade was my new start. I had been teased for years when I was in elementary school, but I tried to ignore that time in my life. I wasn't in an age where I really realized how damaging those things were, but it was around, and for me, all I knew was that I wanted it to stop. When I got into seventh grade, there were a bunch of new elementary schools that fed into this big junior high. And from that point, I kind of thought, this is my new chance. It's my new start. There's going to be all these kids. They don't know who I am. And for
Yeah.
me, this is what I was waiting for, and things were good for a couple months. Kids didn't know who I was. And, you know, that soon changed because there was one kid that decided my name, Sami Kader. It rhymed with some other words. For the show, I'll say Fatnator. So Sami Kader, the Fatnator, and it was within moments that spread like wildfire. And this is the time where we didn't have phones or text messaging, and it came to the point where kids from different schools would hear my name and they would know my nickname instantly. They go, "Oh, you're that guy." Hundreds and hundreds of kids just started making fun of me, calling me terrible names, and they all tied into my weight, which, had gone down a little bit, but then started climbing and climbing. And, seventh and eighth grade was a tough time for me. My mom and dad got a divorce, and my dad let me know, hey, you're going to be the man of the house.
Wow.
I'm leaving. And I started thinking, like, I don't even know how to take care of myself. Um, from that point forward,
Well, let me
I
pause you
just
real
started
quick,
sitting.
Sammy. Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it's hard, man. I knew this was going to be hard hearing your story because I love you, man, and it's really hard to hear that. And I know where I was going because I remember I knew you around that time. But I'm just thinking it right now, like about that seventh and eighth grader. I mean, how old are we when we're in seventh and eighth grade? We're not that old. Are we like 12, 13? I mean, that's not.
12, 13.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's not very old. So for you to have that much going on at school, and have that much going on at school, and then to have that much going on at home, like where were you finding any sort of refuge? Where were you finding your peace? Did you have any at that point?
Well, I had a good buddy in junior high named Robert, and Robert and I, we used to hide away in the library together, and we
Mm,
used to play magic cards, because all these kids that were kind of the outcast, we'd go and we'd play this card game just to get away, just to hide away from people, because that's when I started looking at the ground. When I looked up, I was afraid that if I made eye contact with the wrong person, I was going to get humiliated, or I was going to get made fun of, or
yeah.
something like that. And so, for me, I didn't really have any place to go. When I got home, family life was a little different at that time, and I just found myself either sitting on the couch, crying myself to sleep at night. I just had a lot of terrible things going on. But the worst part was, I talk about these names. Kids were calling me fat piece of crap, everything you could think of. I remember one person told me, I said, "Leave me alone. Why do you keep making fun of me?" And I always tell junior high kids this, and they looked at me and they said, "Because I have to look at your fat, ugly face." And I remember looking down at the ground and thinking to myself, I remember that exact moment.
Mm, looks like we lost Sammy. Let me get him right back on. 1 second, guys. All right. Wow, that was a tough place to lose our broadcast. I'm going to get Sammy back on here right now. Um, looks like there he is. Lost you there for a second, buddy. Keep going. I have to look at, yeah. Where I cut out was when you were saying that, like, and I'm just like reeling listening to this story. But you were saying like I have to look at your fat ugly
Yeah.
face every, yeah. So people, I mean, wow.
And when I heard that, and I looked down and I remember thinking in that moment, they're right. You know, they do have to look at me, and I am everything that they say that I am. And so my point that I'm trying to make is that I started believing the things they said were to be true. I didn't just look at them going, "Why are you saying this?" I started thinking, they have a right to say this because it's true. Everything that they say about me is true. I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm no good, I hate myself. And I started believing everything I heard. I think that's truly the worst part of it. And it's not just about the kids that called me names. It's that I believed everything. I started believing, and there was no counter. There was nobody countering those words. There was
That's an
nobody
important
telling me
part.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, "Sammy, that's not true. Like, you are a good guy. You are an amazing person. You're not ugly. Keep working. Keep going. I believe in you." There was never counter to those words, and
Do you think if there would have been
I
a counter,
think.
do you think if there wouldn't have been a counter to that, like it's almost like, we talk about in this authorship rights and rewriting your story. And so, you at that time didn't have an autobiography. You had a biography that was written by all these other people. And so many people have that. They find the stories they tell about themselves have been written by other people who spoke into their life. They're retelling the same story for their entire life that was spoken into their life at a time in their life when they were really vulnerable and really, really hurting, like you were. Do you think if you would have had one person in your life, and I know it's hindsight, but if you would have had one person in your life that spoke the positive stuff that I know you speak into your kid's life and stuff like that. Do you think that that would have made a difference?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that it would have. I know that what I do today is hoping that in some way I can have some impact everywhere I go, in a way like that. You know, it's hard to say. I know that we all need those people, though. No matter who you are, no matter what age you are, we all need those people saying those positive words in our ear, speaking, being that positive voice. Because without that positive voice, we're going to be left to our own,
Devices, our
say,
own stories,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I want to say our own
all that old,
devices,
yeah, all that old stuff
our own
surfaces
devices,
back.
our own negative voice.
I kind of took you off there for a moment. Keep going though. So you're here. You are seventh, eighth grade. You said I didn't have a lot of people that were countering that. So at the time, this is I always say, our parents are do the best they can. We as parents, I tell people I'm a therapist, and it doesn't matter how much I study this stuff. Right now, I apologize to my son. I'm screwing him up in some way. Right? We try to do the best we can, but our parents have limitations and stuff like that. But was your family very affirming in those kind of ways that you needed, or what did you not hear that till maybe later in life, or yeah,
You know, I don't think that my mom really knew what to say or how to help.
yeah,
One thing that I know that carried me through a lot of it is that my mom's unconditional love. She didn't really know how to
mm,
help us, but she loved us so much, and she always let us know, I love you, I love you, I love you, and she did so much. I mean, she worked the night shift. She was always
mm,
helping us. She would hardly sleep trying to take care of everything she needed to take care of to
wow,
help her kids. Um, my dad was gone at that point. He had moved 20 miles, 30, miles away, and he had some things going on. I had wished at the time. I always looked up to my dad so much. He's your dad.
of
He's my
course,
dad, but everyone's dad. It kind of plays a very strong uh, figure like that. And so for me,
yeah,
I always looked to my dad. And we had some bonds together that I really, really kept close to my heart. Some things that I love, but he wasn't around a lot. Eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, and as these things in school got worse, um, I just started falling to the wayside. I started, really sinking into a deep depression. I started getting really sad. Um, kids. I'd go into an assembly, and I'd have kids in front of like 1,000 people, yelling things about me, and the humiliation became unbearable on a daily basis. I just remember thinking, like, I don't know how much longer I can take this, and I don't know why I'm even here. And I started thinking those terrible things. I never like to use when I speak to kids words like suicide or anything like that, but
yeah,
I started thinking, like, why am I even here? What am I doing? Like, I started thinking like I'm a mistake. And I think that's the belief that I really held true in my head. Like, I'm a mistake. I looked at all these kids and they seemed to have this great life. And I said, why was I stuck with this? Why am I Sammy Kader, the fatinator, the kid that nobody likes? Why am I me? And I started hating that person, hating myself, resenting who I was, hating every time I would look at myself in the mirror and just being disgusted and just saying, I am what they say I am. I'm terrible. I'm all those things. Um, you know, uh, I didn't think anything would ever change, and I had given up. I had absolutely given up. I just started wasting away on the couch every day. By the time I was 15 years old, I weighed over 300 pounds. But worse than that, I was just so numb inside. I didn't really, when I was younger, I would cry myself to sleep, but I got to a point where I wasn't crying anymore. And I felt like there was nobody there that was going to stop it. Nobody cared about me. Nobody loved me. And I just wanted to waste away on the couch. And that's what I did. I would drink 6 sodas a day. I would eat as much food as I could. I got into smoking marijuana, drugs, things like that. I really just didn't care about myself. I didn't care about anything. And
you
I
went
just
numb.
blocked everybody out. Yeah.
Yeah, you went numb. Looking back, was I know like the food, the drugs, all that stuff. Was that helping you get numb? Like, was the food helping
It
you
was
get
just
numb?
it was just an escape. It was just an escape. There's a point where it's like you just want to be anything but who you are. And I think at a
Ugh,
young age, for me, it was just like, if I could take a vacation, a small vacation from being Sammy Cater, if I could be away for just a moment in time, I thought that that was worth taking. That chance was worth taking. Whatever it was, I wanted to do it because I didn't want to be me anymore. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't at a place where I could actually do anything permanent. And I'm so thankful for that. I was just so unhappy with being who I was. And you know, I was at the point of no return. Nobody could reach me. My mom couldn't reach me. Nobody was able to get through to me. And right at that time in my life, it was like some things just lined up. I had a family friend, somebody who came into my life, and
What was his name?
he had no place. His name was Ronnie,
Ronnie.
and
What's his
Ronnie had
last name? Ronnie what? Because Ronnie's got some major authorship rights in your story, man. What's his last name?
I'm gonna not say his last name right
Oh,
now.
okay.
I've been,
Sure, sure,
you know,
sure.
yeah, with my story and everything, I've just been using the name Ronnie
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah. That's cool.
yeah, just
So Ronnie
respecting
comes,
everyone's.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ronnie comes into your life, and you are definitely at your lowest point. And you know what? One of the things I want to point out to you too, I told you this on the way in. There's people listening right now at a point that may be very close, if not far from that. And maybe people are at that point. So this part is really important for them to hear. They're not alone. Number one,
Yeah.
number two, when you're in the deep pits of depression, this is what's remarkable is that something happened to pivot you out of that, and you could not have expected that. So Ronnie comes into your life, and what happens next?
Well, let's just make one thing clear.
Yeah.
I didn't want his help. I didn't want him to. I didn't want his help at all. I said, "Leave me alone. Leave me alone." I mean, he needed a spotter in the gym, and he saw me wasting away on the couch. People were afraid. You know, my mom was scared. My sister Summer, she was scared. Um, my little sister, she was, she was in a place like me. You know, we didn't really know what to do. I just felt like I felt like at the time when Ronnie came in my life, I just told him, I said, just leave me alone. I hate you. Nobody, that was my attitude. And he didn't take no for an answer. I was at a point of no return, and, I didn't really have a breaking point at that point, I thought. And so when he started, asking me to go to the gym, I just started, replying back to him in a, in a pretty terrible way. Like,
Like what? What would you say? What
no,
would you
I
let
said,
it hang out?
you can imagine. I just say, hey, there's no way I'm going with you. I hate you. Get out of here. And Sammy, you're coming with me to the gym. It's not a question. I need a spotter. You're coming with me. Your family said I could take you with me, and I said I'm not going anywhere. You know, and
And Sammy,
I
I
remember.
mean, for a lot of people, for a lot of people, the gym already is intimidating. And for you,
Yeah, oh yeah.
having gone through everything you went through socially, you know, uh, how intimidating was it, the thought of going to the gym? Like that must have been just terrifying.
You know what? I didn't think of it that way. I just hated everything. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like I
Ah,
hadn't gone
yeah.
to the gym. I didn't care about the gym. I was a kid and 15-year-old kid. And it's like, I wasn't going to go to the gym. I wasn't going to go anywhere. It wasn't intimidating. I just hated the idea of anybody messing with my comfort zone. Because when I was on the
Ah,
couch, that was the place. The couch for me was the place that nobody could affect me. Nobody could get to me.
ooh,
Nobody could make fun of me. So leave me alone, leave me alone. I'm already terrible enough. What do you want from me? What do you want to embarrass me? Why are you wasting your time on me? And that's probably one of the feelings that I had a lot. Why are you wasting your time on me? Leave me alone. And so he didn't take no for an answer. I remember that first day, door open, get into the car. He had his truck. He said, get into my truck. We're going to the gym. Your mom said, I go, I hate you. You can't make me go. And he's like, it's not a question. I'm telling you, get into the truck. And I remember, cursing at him, and he just came at me. He got me into a headlock, took me to the ground,
what?
and he started squeezing around my neck. And he's like, "Come on, Sammy, you're coming to the gym." And I was just screaming. I was 300 pounds. I was flailing my arms, kicking my legs. I hate you. I hate you. And he's like, it can all end. Just say you'll go to the gym with me. And finally I said, I'm telling my mom. And he got off me. And he goes, fine, tell your mom, but I'm coming
Wow.
back and you better be ready. He came back the next day. I remember running into my room, hiding behind the door, hoping he didn't see me. And, he's just like, what are you doing? I'm like, you're not taking me. He took me to the ground. But, this time, talk about that breaking point. He put me through so much pain. And, I never advocate hitting anybody to get your way, but I was at a place of point of no return. Nobody could reach me. And I remember he got me into a headlock and he started punching me in the arm. He's like, "You gonna go to the gym?" And I'm like, "I hate you." And I remember he had just reached that point. He reached his hand up like this. And at that moment, I said, "Fine, I'll go. Please don't hit me. I'll go. I'll go." And he got off me like nothing happened. And he looked at me and he said, "Fine, go get your gym clothes on. We're going." And I remember hating him so much. We got into his truck, and I'll never forget that first time that we drove to the gym, because for the first time, I didn't hate myself as much because now I hated him. He
Yeah,
was
you
the guy.
let me be your scapegoat. Yeah, what a tactic, man. So yeah, so you
Yeah,
hated him
I hated him. He was making me do something I didn't want to do.
out of your
And
comfort
I
zone.
just,
Yeah.
out of my comfort zone, I hit my breaking point. And I didn't know when we went to the gym, I didn't know what would happen, but I do know that was the start of something. That was the beginning of something that put in place something that I didn't know what would happen. I didn't even know why we were going, but he made me go. He every day he showed up and he made me go. And I fought him for the first 2 months. I fought him every day. I still don't know why he didn't give up, but he saw something in me that I couldn't see. And
Oh, that's
yeah, he made
powerful.
me go. And while we were there, he taught me all kinds of life lessons. Never give up. Keep going. Sammy, you got this. Think about all the people that ever called you a name. And I want you to take that and get in there and start lifting weights. So we'd start exercising, and he helped me to transfer all my internal pain into external energy and just give me some fuel to exercise and lift. And because I was holding on to all that. I talk to junior high about this all the time. I was holding on to all that pain, and you're either going to do one of three things with your pain. You're going to hold on to it, you're going to give it to other kids,
Mm,
or you're
mm,
going to get it out. You're going to exercise, you're going to talk
wow.
about it, you're going to release your pain. And
You're
so
so right.
you got to do that. And I might as well say this right now, all the kids that bullied me, I hate using that word for the main reason that bullies are not bad kids. All the kids that made fun of me, friends of ours now, people that we've known over the years, they're not bad kids, they're not bad people. And almost every single person apologized to me, but some of them went into more detail saying, "I was going through some terrible times as a kid and I didn't know what to do with my pain. And I was an easy target. I was the kid that looked at the ground. I had no self respect, no self esteem. I walked around hating myself. And I tell kids, how are you going to want people to like you if you don't like yourself first? So it really starts with you. And for me, I was an easy target. And, you know, getting into that whole bullying thing, bullies are not bad kids.
Mm.
You don't talk about, "Oh, so and so bullied me, so and so bullied me." That's not the way you stop bullying. You know, um, all the kids that made fun of me, they've grown up into great people, and they're friends of mine today. But
And
at the
that speaks
time,
volumes of you that you would allow them to even, talk about forgiveness and grace and redemption, all that stuff. I mean, we'll get, I just think that's amazing that you would even, so many people, I think when they get traumatized like you were at the hands of others, they don't have the love and compassion and the perspective enough to say, like, you put me through a lot of stuff to the point that you did me no favors, but I'm going to forgive you. Like, is that a lesson that Ronnie taught you, or is that something that was inside of Sammy from the get, or what happened?
no, I've always been a really like just a naturally forgiving person. I've always been a fun-loving, happy guy. I just want to, people pleaser, nice person. I think that maybe my forgiveness at first came as you know, part of the fact that I wanted people to like me. I wanted to
Yeah,
be,
I relate to
my,
that.
my
Yeah,
whole my whole life, I just wanted people to like me. You talk about what's your goal, what's your dream. Like, I was rejected by girls my whole life. When I got to my senior year of high school, all I wanted was a girlfriend because, it's what I saw everybody else have. I wanted people to like who I was.
mm,
And, that was my strive. So when people were asking for forgiveness, oh my gosh, like these are like the most popular kids in school. Like I always wanted to be that. And I also thought it was going to make me happy, right? If I could be a popular kid, but to have those kids coming up to me is like, oh my gosh, like people are being kind to me, they're being nice to me, and to see the way that people treated me on one end of the spectrum and the other end of the spectrum, it was a crazy experience at a young age. to see the way you could be treated so differently in such a short period of time. Because after Ronnie came into my life, that was halfway through my sophomore year. By the time I started my senior year, I was down over 100 pounds. And,
Over 100 pounds. When
yeah, if you can,
and what did the transformation? I know that people start reacting to you differently as you're losing the weight, but do you start reacting differently to yourself? Does that same story, because that was a powerful story that had been embedded in you from a young age, did that story
yeah.
shift as the pounds were coming off, or was it still prevalent?
You mean, what do you mean? Like
The
the
story that you
story that
told
I'm,
about yourself, that you're not worthy, that you know that you're a mistake, like all of that stuff. Were you shedding that as you shed the weight, or did that come later where
oh
you
no,
really you
oh
didn't?
no, no, no. All that stuff comes like 10 years later.
Ah,
The initial weight loss is, oh wow, I feel good. Oh wow, everyone likes me. Oh wow, let me just kind of become kind of a jerk like everyone was to me, kind of thing. Like
sure.
like this is like I just got let in the VIP entrance, and look at life is good, and I
The
was too
victim
young to
comes
really.
the abuser. Yeah, in that way. Right.
Yeah, I was too young to really understand any of that stuff. But I do know that as I balanced out, because when you go from boom to boom, you're just kind of balancing out until you kind of get into the middle. And I'm still not there, but it was years. And through my years at the gym, right out of high school, I lost 100 pounds my senior year. Right out of high school, I became a trainer, and that was my calling at the time. When I got into that, talking to all these people that were 30 years, 40 years older than me, and learning so much from them, growing up, listening to stories, listening, and also being somebody that could give them guidance or give them hope. That was a powerful and very growing experience for me. So growing up from the age of 18 to 30 in a gym with people every day, 12 hours a day, that are 20, 30 years older than me. And I was very coachable. I always wanted to learn. I always wanted to be told new things, and I was always
Sure.
open-minded. Yeah. So, I think that the time came about 10 years later when I realized why the forgiveness of all the kids who made fun of me was really that easy for me. And the reason was because that wasn't the source of my pain. It was an external source, but the real source of my pain, of my hurt, of the things that I wanted, was that I had a huge hole in my heart. And the reason why I had that hole was because when I was 300 pounds and I was sitting on the couch and I was desperate for somebody to be saved, I didn't want Ronnie to save me. I didn't want anybody else. I was wanting my dad to be there. And when I grew up, I looked back and I saw who I was now, and I looked back on that kid and I just kept thinking, like, when I was at that place where I wanted to end it all, I didn't think anything was happening. I was feeling worthless. I just thought to myself, how come he wasn't there?
Where was he? Yeah.
And for me, that's what took the forgiveness. And I can tell you that that's where, how could you forgive all those people? It's not that I'm it's not that I'm amazing at forgiveness. It's that the true forgiveness that I had to learn, the love that I had to find, was for the person that I love the most in my life, the one that I've always looked up to my whole life, and that was my father, my dad. And that's taken me about 15 years. And let me tell you, um, I was afraid to say this because if my dad's watching, I just want him to know I love him so much. I
Yeah,
love
of
my dad
course.
so much. But it took me a long time, and there's so many different ways to look at it. But I kept thinking maybe he left because of me. Maybe the same
No,
reason the
yeah.
kids made fun of me were the same reason that he left. Like, why would he want a son that was the way I was? And so there's all these different
Ugh.
negative things and all these lies that I fed myself. But the truth is, you're a parent now. I'm a father, and you've got a son. I've got a son and a daughter, and being a dad is the toughest most amazing job in the world. And you look at all these things that parents are going through, and, um, I'm not making excuses for anybody or anything, but I can say this, that, when parents, I tell kids that go through divorce all the time, that they think that their parents left, maybe it's their fault. That's a reoccurring feeling, is it my fault? Did my parents split up because of me? And it's never the kid's fault, but we always feel that way. I think it's something that a lot of kids are are left with inside. So, it just took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of work, but I can tell you that what caused that was this feeling inside of me that I couldn't handle anymore. By the time I got to the end of my training, I've realized that I was just trying to feel better about myself by talking with other people and taking on their problems so I could hide from my own. But I got to a point where I just couldn't live that way anymore. And that's when I felt I reached my real breaking point. Around 28 years old, I got to this place. I had dreamed of helping kids, sharing my story. I had a lot of trauma from being, humiliated in front of a lot of people. So speaking in front of people was something I was so scared to do. And I thought I could never do this. I could never speak in front of anybody. I'd start to speak. I would start sweating profusely. My cheeks would get bright red. I would just be scared out of my mind. And so I was never going to be able to do that. But I felt so upset because internally I couldn't get past this hurdle. And I knew that I couldn't do it alone. So that's when I started realizing that the only way I was going to be set free and be able to accomplish my dreams and goals is if I figure out how to replay, how to reset, how to rewire what was going on inside of me, because I was so hurt and I was so just felt like just feeling worthless all the time. I had lost the weight. It had been 10 years later, but that feeling of worthlessness, of nobody, of just being somebody who doesn't matter, who's just somebody who's ugly in and out. Just I look at myself, like right now, I can see myself on this Facebook Live, and if this were 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I would have to look away because I'd hate looking at myself every time. People at the gym would go, "Why do you stare at yourself in the mirror?" And I'd say, "I'm not staring at myself. I'm just trying to not, I'm just so self-conscious, always fluffing my shirt like this,
Yeah.
afraid that, maybe a roll is going to be sticking out." So it's like, it just got to a point where I was so unhappy with the way that I was feeling inside. And everybody would tell me, "Sammy, you're a good-looking guy. What's wrong?" And I go, "I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm a good-looking guy. I feel like I'm a terrible person." And I couldn't shake that feeling, but I did know one thing, and that was I couldn't feel that way anymore. I said, I don't want to live one more day feeling like I'm nobody and that I'm worthless, when I know that's not true, but I can't shake it in here. And that's when I started realizing and really realizing that a lot of the pain that I was having was the fact that I couldn't forgive my dad. And I had so much trouble with that. I just kept thinking, why did he not help me? Why was it not him? Why was it Ronnie? Why didn't my dad come help me? And, you know, when I was able to talk with him and reconnect with my dad after all those years of just avoiding him, because I was so afraid to talk. And that was the first thing, was just talking with him. I realized that I am who I am today because of all those things, right? You can't hate people that are one of the main reasons why everything in your life is the way it is. Terrible things happen every day, but I know one thing for sure. My dad loves me, and that relationship, that forgiveness, that's what took me 10 or 15 years. That's what has truly set me free and is the heart of the therapy conclusion, is that, finding that true forgiveness. You might forgive all the external sources and say, "Oh, I forgave them, but there's always one kind of at the heart of it.
Yes, I do. It was that core belief. I'm taken aback at the fact that you recognized that there was that core belief, and you mentioned it back when you were a kid of not being worthy. So many kids, as you said, if there was one core belief that kids from divorced families feel, it's typically, especially when the divorce happens before they're in high school and stuff, is this belief that it's my fault, like I did something. For you to get that message in a school, at the same time of this rejection and shame, but I'm not worthy. And you bring up something, man, that I remember, because we talked about it even before your healing happened, where you would say, like, in a sense, it's like, and I could relate to you too. It's like, at times we might have new bodies, but we have the same old story. And what I take away from what you're telling me is this, is that if there's people out there right now that might be in new bodies telling the old story, or they got a new body and they went back to the old body because they never changed their story. And really a big key that I want to point out of what you did, and it's so powerful, is get to the root belief. What is the root belief? And then it sounds like what you did is you then kind of tease that out, and where does that come from? So the core negative belief for you was what? And it was related to your dad. It was that you're not worthy, or something's wrong with you. What was that core negative belief that you identified?
I think that it's that I wasn't worth loving. Because why would you love me? Why would you? You like, look at me, and basically the foundational years of my life, I was looking at myself a lot and hearing a story to go along with it of, you're ugly, you're fat, you're disgusting, get out of here. Why am I looking at your ugly face? I hate you, and so with that narration and the visual that I was seeing, overweight, heavy, obese, stretch marks all over my body, I just imprinted in myself, like, there's nothing here to love. There's nothing here worth loving, and what they're saying is true.
Demystify it though, man. What did you do? Because there's so many people listening that have not taken the step in their lives to identify the negative core belief, to identify the source of the pain, contextualize it, put it in context. You had to have difficult conversations with your dad, it sounds like. And you've mentioned therapy a few times. For people listening at home, were those hallmarks? Is that kind of like some takeaway message here today? I'm hearing forgiveness as a takeaway message. I'm hearing difficult conversations with the root of a lot of stuff, and dealing with the root. And then therapy. Were those keys to kind of your success, or how did you go about actually tackling that once you identified it?
Oh man, that's a deep question. I'd say the takeaways are, in everybody's life, there's always one person who kind of has you, there's somebody that's always going to have kind of a power over you, somebody who's always going to, and whether it's your dad, your mom, for a while it was Ronnie, because he was my brother, my father figure. But when you stand up to them in a way, that takes strength. Like when you speak to somebody who you have trouble talking to because of something that happened, whether it was a trauma or something that happened in your life, something between the two of you, it takes a lot of strength to stand up to somebody and tell them how you feel. Because otherwise, you're doing the same thing that I was doing as a kid. I was keeping it inside. And when you keep those terrible things inside, they just continue to fester and hurt and destroy you from the inside out. And, if you don't deal with it at a young age, like I'm so thankful I did, because when you 40, 50, 60, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So for me, the takeaway is that forgiveness is one of the hardest things in the world. But if you don't give up, if you don't quit, if you continue to strive and work towards forgiving people that you thought or didn't deserve or couldn't, or you just couldn't bring yourself, or you said you did, but you truly didn't believe it, if you don't quit on that, and you're always working towards that true forgiveness, not just the surface forgiveness. And I can't even give you the blueprint on how to do that. Even though I've done it, it's, I'm telling you, it took me 15 years, but it's a process. The same process in loving yourself. That's a lifelong thing. There's never a day that goes by that I don't find something terrible about the way that I look, or look at myself. Oh my gosh, but it's not even close to what it used to be. It's a process, loving yourself, forgiving people that have hurt you in the past. And, I guess the takeaway is, forgiveness is a huge thing, and it has to start somewhere, and it can never begin if you don't start it at the source of where it needs to go. I know I didn't talk to my dad about the way I felt every time I talked to him for 10 years straight after I graduated high school. It was always just a surface conversation. He'd say, "What's wrong? Talk to me." And I just couldn't do it. My body would just literally shut down. And, when I started talking to him, it just started making things better.
How
It
did you
just
start that?
started.
How did you start that conversation? Did you sit down with him? Did you like prep him for it? Or one day it just happened organically? Like how did those big conversations start unraveling?
I think he started it, and I was old enough to, you know, I think, I think, I think everybody gets to an age. It happens for different people at different times where they realize that something needs to be talked about. And, um, I thought I wanted an apology. But I didn't want that. I just wanted to know that he loved me and that I was there to talk to him about, and, just talk, and get to a place where I could tell him how I felt. I think from one of the therapy sessions, she asked me to write him a letter. And in the letter, I just wrote all the ways I felt. I didn't write about what he did or what he didn't do or blamed him. I just said how I felt. It was literally 3 pages of just how I felt. So that's how it began.
Hmm.
And when I wrote him that letter, that was a really big deal for me because I had never told him how I felt before.
Do you feel like, and I know we're up against only 5 more minutes or less here, and so number one, are you willing to come back again and continue this conversation at a later date and make a second appearance on the show at some point in the next couple months or 3 months or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, sure, absolutely. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
because
an hour went by so fast.
no, I mean it blew by. I looked down, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So I wanted that. Thank you, because I have so much more we can dive into. But there's a few things I want to really wrap up for people here that are listening. Um, I almost want to set you up, so I'm not going to set you up. I'm just going to ask you if you agree with me on this. Like, do you agree? I always believe that in order to really rewrite your story, you need to love yourself today where you are at, and not base it on the number on the scale and things like that. And once you do,
If
that it'll shift. Agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on that?
this is what I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you don't love yourself at 300 pounds, you're definitely not going to love yourself at 200. If you don't
Say
love
it.
yourself right this second,
Say it.
it's not going to happen. There's no external change that will change your heart. And
Ooh.
and the truth is, it's like, and you can, and that's the whole thing. I kept my weight off when I lost it, but it wasn't because I was healed on the inside. It was because
Hmm.
I worked at a gym, I exercised at a gym,
Hmm.
and I was desperately running on a figurative treadmill because I didn't want people to, like I said, I saw how people treated me when I was thin, when I lost that 100 pounds, and I never wanted to go back again because I was so afraid that if I gained my weight back, everyone would hate me again, and my worth would go out the window because I didn't have it. The only thing that was my worth was that if I could keep that weight off, people would still like me. And man, I desperately was clinging to that.
It
I
was
mean,
out
I
of
just didn't.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
fear. It was fear of survival. Do you feel this way? And I know that you don't wish this on yourself, and I don't wish this on you. No one does. But do you feel right now that if you started putting back some of the weight, would you hate yourself like you would in the past? Would it really be that, or
no.
what would happen? Why
No,
not? Why
I
not?
got, I've gotten to a place where, like I said, I did a lot of work with therapy, um, kind of recreating moments in my mind that made me feel a certain way, and it just kind of clicked. Something changed when I was about 29 years old when I just realized that who I am, whether I'm 10 pounds up or 10 pounds down or 20 pounds up, that doesn't make me any more or less lovable. And I know that's easy to say those words, but it took me a long time to get to that place. And I gained 20 pounds over Christmas vacation. I gained 20 pounds and I didn't hate myself. I just got to a place where I was like, hey, it's all about being healthy now. I just know what's healthy for me mentally and physically, and I know what's not. And I know that if I'm putting 20 pounds on, it's because I'm I'm just kind of I'm doing too much. I'm emotionally eating. I'm not balancing myself off out. I'm so it now it's more of a healthy thing. I see myself 20
Mm.
pounds up, and there's no red alarm. There's no I hate myself. It's just, hey, let's
Amen.
take care of myself. Because I know one thing to be true, and that's that we all deserve to be healthy. We don't deserve to lose 30 pounds, or we don't lose. We deserve to be healthy, and whatever that means to you. It's just too easy, to say that the weight loss is what it's about. It's not about the weight loss.
No, it's
It's
not.
about knowing that who you are is a lovable person, any weight, any time, anywhere. But from that point, once you realize that who you are is a lovable person that is awesome, amazing, whatever it is, then let's take care of ourselves. Let's get to a place where we deserve that. We deserve to take care of our bodies, our mental health, our physical health, and it's not easy to do. And when you've
But
got
yeah,
something that's yeah.
well, I just want to say this, and I know we probably got to run, but I hope everyone just heard that, because I hear so often in my practice, I hear so often when people write to me, or they comment on these shows, and they say, you keep preaching this message of self-love where I'm at now. If I just love where I'm at today, I'm just going to justify sitting on the couch and being in my prison. I said, no, like maybe you will at first, but then what you're really going to find is it's no longer going to be about motivation to get shame off your back. It's going to be about the real reasons. And I think it's so important, because that's what you're saying right now, is that what are you left with? If it's not about defeating the voice of shame, you're going to love yourself 20 pounds up or 20 pounds down. Doesn't matter. Then what is it really about? And like you said, that's when it can become about your health. That's when you can develop a healthier relationship to food, when you can look at taking care of yourself in a different sort of way. It is possible. And Sami, your story, your story is living proof on so many levels, man. I just,
Well,
first of all,
I'll
yeah,
say,
yeah,
yeah, I'll say this. What I'm doing today, it's been 20 years since I lost weight. It's been 19 years since that story, and thinking back to it, it's kind of a trip, because I tell it all the time, but it's still it seems like a long time ago. I think now, being in schools, helping kids, the reason why I feel like I'm there, going back to why I'm not training anymore, is because kids are so impressionable. And what if I use 10 words on a kid, I know those 10 words are probably going to stick. Where if I use a million words on an adult, I know that probably 900,000 of them are going to go nowhere, And so the
yeah.
whole thing is, and my whole point in that is that to to break the slate, to break into an adult's mindset, it's so hard to do. And that's why everything we're talking about, if somebody hears something that we've said, that the big thing is this: it's hard. It is so hard. It's so hard that I've dedicated my whole life to helping children, because that is an impressionable mold that can still be formed. They can still hear the words I'm saying. Every second I spend in schools, I know is a great second spent. Whereas, with adults, it's so hard for us to hear. We're so set in our ways. We've told our story to ourselves so many times. And I'm just saying, it's a long journey. It's so hard. It's so tough. But you can't relive the same year of your life over and over again. You've got to make a change if you're not happy with what's going on, and that change is going to be tough. You're going to lose friends. Your whole lifestyle, your family, everything, the dynamic is going to change everywhere you look, but it will change. A lot of the people that I went to high school with, we weren't friends after high school. It's just a different dynamic. When you change, you're not that same person. And so I know that change is tough for anybody, but you know, with that point being made, it is so hard as an adult to do this. But if you need a motivation, it goes back to the kids. You have a family, you have kids,
Yeah.
man, they deserve the best. They deserve the best you.
Mm.
And if you're not happy with yourself and your life, the way things are, you got to make a change. And if you need motivation, all you got to do is look around you, look at the people you love the most.
Well, and you said it, because you know what? It's interesting, because you are clearly called to working with kids, and I totally agree. If you can intercept them at this critical point, I do believe that your voice is powerful enough. There's a local news reporter from Fox 40 that I got to work with recently, and he was telling me how everyone in his school, or excuse me, everyone in his family never graduated from high school. Everyone in his family, most of them went to jail, and he had some meteorologist come and talk to him about being on TV and being a meteorologist. He says there was something, the way he talked about it, he made it seem accessible. And it was just he said, this guy, I remember his name. I remember everything about him. I know I didn't care one thing about weather. I just knew I want to do that thing. and there was something that he spoke into him and encouraged him that stayed with him. And that's why I think about what you're doing with kids. And I know that you're doing that because, you know, I mean this 100%, but you're the closest thing to Tony Robbins that I've ever got a chance to actually interact with. And I mean that fully, man. Like when I see Tony Robbins, I'm like, I wonder if he knows Sami Kader, because you have that, you embody that, and just take it, don't fight it. I'm just telling you, man, like
one of my favorite compliments is people, I've heard this like 20 times. They say, you're the Tony Robbins for kids. And, you know, for me, that's the greatest compliment. You know, what he's doing for adults, it's amazing. And, you know, to even be in the same ballpark and somebody say those words is really great. I want to shout out right now to a good friend of mine, Laura Johnson. I think she's watching, and she is one of those people that was a positive voice for me. Awesome. My wife Megan's always been somebody, but I'll tell you this, whatever journey you're going through, you're not going to do it alone. And Laura, she was somebody who saw me about 6 years ago, and I told her my story, and she said, I want to help you no matter what that means. I want to help you get into schools, write your story. And, you know, my wife Megan's been there for the last 11 years, helping me through all the stuff. And, you know, there's just no way we're going where we want to go by ourselves. So, yep. You know, if you're listening right now and you're thinking about, you know, think about the people that are always telling you things, because this is the last point I want to make. I was told 1,000 times that I should motivational speak, that I should help kids, that I could get into schools. But about 1,000 times I said no. I shrugged it off and said, that's not me. It's weird because a lot of times we're told what we should be doing by so many people around us, but we never actually listen. Surround yourself with those people. And when people are telling you great things about yourself, you got to listen. You've got to open your eyes, open your ears, and really listen to what you're being told, because a lot of times we're being told these things all along. We just have to start believing the people that believe in us.
Yeah,
so thank you for believing in me. Mondo, thank you for believing in me.
Hey, always, man. No, seriously. Yeah, I could sit here and gush about you for a long, long time. I know that I remember, you know, when you said looking down at the ground, I remember that look. I mean, like I can remember that look on your face, and I could remember, and just to see you now, and to see you feel so confident, and to see you smiling, and to see you doing what you're doing. I don't know, man. I love you, man, and I'm so proud of you. And
thanks.
And you're a huge inspiration. And I'll tell you what, you're called to work with those kids. I feel called to work with the adults. And here's the thing. You also give me proof that an adult can rewrite his story, because here's the thing. You rewrote your story in your late 20s, which means that if people are listening right now, yeah, you had to have people, you know, sow into your life in those early ages, but you can still do it regardless of where you're at in your life. It just takes a team effort. And I'm just so glad to be in this team with you, where we're all trying to help people. So much of your message, man, I'm just like, man, maybe I ripped Sami off, because so much of your message is stuff that I say. So I'm like, did I get that from Sami? You know what I think it is?
We teamed up together earlier on. And you know what? Here's the thing. If Tom Brady could do it, so can you.
That's right.
And, you know, if there's any parents watching right now, look out for Sami's Circuit if it's coming to your kid's school, because, you know, we're doing family nights all over the place.
Awesome.
We're doing fun runs. I'd love to see the families, parents out there. And, you know, we can all be that for each other. That what Ronnie was for me, we got to be that for each other, that positive voice. And, man, it doesn't matter what age we are. We need to hear those words every day. So surround yourself with people that are telling you those positive words, because, man,
love it.
You need to hear it. We all need to hear it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Sami, I'll be in touch with you soon. I'm going to bring you back because we have to do another round of this. Thank you so much. Again, what schools are you going to be at? Plug that real quick. I know we're over, but plug it. Where are you going to be? Where can they find you?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
I don't even know.
So name a school. I'm in all the Roseville schools. I'm in all the Rockland schools. I'm in the Loomis schools. I'm in San Juan schools. Any school. But you know, always send me a message on my website, www.samiscircuit.com. That's an S after the I, or Sami Kader, SAMIKADER.com. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. And one more thing. This is how I got to plug. This is how I got to end it all. Never forget, you got this.
That's right. That's the tagline. Now I know where you got it from. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. Thank you so much, Sami, for tonight. You guys, what an amazing episode. And it's so nice to have you guys. We'll be back again next week. We got a special guest. I'm not going to even tell you about who's coming on next week. All I can tell you is tune in, because so many of you will relate to the story that you're going to hear next week. We're doing Rewriting Your Story with Dr. Mondo every single Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you are in the Central time zone, that means it's at 8 p.m. And if you're on the East Coast, that means it's 9. And if you're in, I don't know, anywhere else, you'll have to look it up. But that's what time we're doing it, and we'll be doing this every week. And why do we do this? Because we want to empower you to believe that, as Sami said, you could do it. You can rewrite your story. It's never too late. And as he reiterated, you have to love yourself right now. Protest the scale. Protest shame. Protest this weight-shaming society that we live in that says that you're only worthy if you fit into a certain dress size. You're only worthy if you see some number on the scale. It's all rigged, like those carnival games that always take my money every August. It's rigged, so protest it. And again, it's stories like this that hopefully have inspired you tonight to make a change. Leave your comments here. Share this video with other people that you think need inspiration to hear Sami's story. And if you connected with it, let Sami know why. Sami, leave your links in below. Again, you guys have a great night. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Good night.